allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. First up is additions to our approval of the agenda.
Here we have one suggested change here on the new business. We'd like to switch items C and D. So the pay application is first, and then the change order.
No, change order first, and then.
Okay, we've got that as change order first online.
Oh, yeah, that's how. So that's fine then.
Yep. So no
It's
changes.
different online than what the printout is. But okay. So change order.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion to approve as amended.
We didn't amend it.
Didn't amend it.
So motion approved.
Motion to approve amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, agenda approved. On to visitors to be heard. Anybody wishing to address the council can step up to the podium. You have a 2-minute window. Say your name and address, please.
I'm John Kirchner, I live on South Elm Street. I thought you folks were pretty knowledgeable and had a lot of common sense. I've known a lot of you for years, most of you know me. I was very disappointed when you changed the date for mayor replacement. That's totally unnecessary, totally against everything. I mean, where's your common sense, where's your... People are gonna come in and say, I filed a petition, well, it was due yesterday. Too bad. No, it ain't gonna work anymore. It's unprecedented. Can of worms. Second thing I got, I was at the ballpark, those signs down there that say no dogs allowed need to be replaced with no pets allowed and a $100 fine. I'm standing there talking to a guest from out of town. He's got his dog tied up outside the fence. All of a sudden, here comes a little kid come walking by, carrying a puppy, turns and looks at me, and I don't know if councilman got priority on that stuff. Sam, can you tell me about that? Whether it's a little dog or a big dog, they all bite. I grew up on a farm, and I've been bit by all sizes, all shapes. That's all I got to say tonight. If you want to talk to me, you know where I live. I won't talk on the phone, I won't text. I'll talk to you face to face. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Seeing none, we will go on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion there?
Do we have enough lifeguards now?
After tonight, we should have plenty, yes.
Do we have any-
There are, I think we've got 2 or 3 that are still in the process of getting certified, and wouldn't be shocked to see a few more applications yet, so.
I heard positive comments from the Prairie and Poplar Drive repairs meeting that was held. Glad you're out in front of that, and hopefully there weren't any concerns that weren't able to be addressed. Was everything handled in real time?
Yep.
Had a follow-up. Didn't start today. This week still?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow is what the plan is now, I think they got held up just because of the weather on another project.
Sure. All right, any other items there? All right, we had a motion and a second, so we'll do Bowers.
Aye.
Doherty.
Aye.
Sweer.
Aye.
Welch.
Aye.
Mauer. Aye. Riley.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. On to old business. First item is utility rate study.
Mayor and council, this is coming to a conclusion here tonight, I believe. Documents in your packet are unchanged from the previous version from 3 weeks ago. reviewed both proposed studies and found that no issues need to be addressed. The proposed rates are based on the feedback that the council provided HDR following their presentation in January. I assume the most interest is probably in what rates are going to be for specific customer types, so I've included a lot of that in this memo on the following pages at 1,000 to 5,000.
Those graphs include sewer and water?
Sewer and water, yes. Yep. Overall, no real surprises here. We are seeing higher rates in surrounding communities, but largely because we've been pretty aggressive in improving our utility infrastructure. I do expect to see other communities surpass our rates in the next 5 to 10 years simply due to their delays to take that similar type of action. And I've talked in the past about anticipating significant changes to our capital improvement plan based on our utility rates and the feedback from this study. So if we forego future SRF finance projects and the surcharges that come with them, we're going to need to rely more heavily on the second penny fund, which in my mind, I would predict a phase of capital improvements that are going to be more of a piecemeal fashion and not large scale full utility reconstruction, full street reconstruction. So tonight's recommendation is for acceptance of the final study. There are proposed rate increases included in that study. We'll schedule an agenda item for the following council meeting that will allow for discussion and possible decision on new rates. And that'll be on the May 28 meeting. Please note that rate structure will take us some time to put in place because it's pretty complicated compared to what we're currently using. So we'll probably be make the effective date of those rates later this summer.
The only thing I didn't see in there, I don't think it was really in scope, but something we'll have to discuss is if we build up that reserve fund, how does that play into place with being able to get grants? And do we have to do the SRF loan? Can we get an SRF loan and immediately pay it off with our reserves, or some kind of, how do we maximize our grants and minimize the cost on our taxpayers is really what we need to.
Yeah, and that's probably something we need to talk to Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources about to see what favorable terms we could get on that side. If we were to, let's say, build up second penny to $3 million, we apply for SRF, we get $500,000 grant and $2.5 million in loans.
Right.
Wrap the project up, immediately pay off that principal. I don't think that's something that they currently do. If it's a water or sewer revenue bond, then it's it's basically done on our terms with whichever bank we choose. But then you're foregoing the possibility of any grants.
Right.
So will that ace us out of grants?
Having a reserve of a certain level?
Yeah, being able to pay off what,
I think being able to pay it off, unless you're going to get to such a point that you've got so much built up that they're going to say, you don't need us at all, that would probably put us out of contention for grants. The biggest impact is going to be that their current SRF terms don't allow for an early payoff.
so there's a penalty to pay early?
I don't even think you can do it.
You have to get approval through them. You
Through the
have-
secretary?
Yep,
Yeah.
through, DANR.
So probably not impossible, but at some point, they're going to
Catch on.
catch on to your financing plan.
Well, how many more projects do we have that would be grant eligible?
The big ones would be West 4th and Harrison and there's a Blaine, I think, and then South Elm. Those are the really big ones and I think really key ones that need to be done yet. If you look at the other gravel streets north of the railroad tracks, we've got 3 blocks left after this project. And, relatively new water under some of them. We'd have to look at whether those are large-scale projects or not. And then keep in mind, of course, we have Lewis and Clark coming up as well. And that'll most likely be a water revenue bond. So.
Is there anything missing that you were hoping to see in the report?
No, I'm very happy with how it's turned out. I did talk to HDR as well about continuing on as a consulting basis on rates, just so we could do an annual refresher and diagnostic, make sure we're on pace for whatever goals we set for capital reserve, operating reserve, whatever.
I was a little confused, what is that Lennox water tier analysis file, what is that supposed to be telling us? Just the one with a bunch of columns.
Yeah, pay attention to the last two pages. That's going to tell you who falls in, what percentages fall into which categories.
Okay,
So on the left-hand column, you're going to see cubic feet,
yep,
and that's throughout the year. You'll notice big swings on some of these too. So 100% of our customers use 15,600 cubic feet per month or less.
or less, okay.
If you go to the last page, way at the bottom, you'll see lines drawn across there.
Yep.
That'll show you where those category breakdowns are based on the new rates that they recommend.
Okay, that makes sense.
So 55.61% of our customers are 400 or under
In January.
in January.
Yep.
In July. In
Oh, July, I'm sorry, you're right.
Right, in January, December rate would be about 70-ish%, so. By and large, the majority of our customers are using less than 400 cubic feet per month, which is 3,000 gallons, give or take.
Wasn't part of this, contract with HDR that they were gonna create some kind of like one sheet factoid to send out? Or am I thinking of something else?
Can I follow up on that?
And there was discussion of a public meeting to go through this.
Yeah, the
We
public
did have
meeting
that.
was the one in January.
The rate, when we.
I thought there was one after the.
Oh. I was just thinking there was a handout that we talked about that would be easy to digest.
I'm gonna check the contract, make sure we have that in there. I know we discussed it, but I can't remember if that was the final term, so.
Especially if we're gonna institute the rate changes later, I think having that in a, easy to understand.
Easy to digest and understand.
Yep. Yeah. I know we talked about it, whether or not it made the final cut. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll check on that.
You need a motion?
Motion to accept the rate study.
Motion to accept the rate study pending any omissions from the
Yep.
contract.
Second.
We have motion and a second, is there any further discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, utility rate is accepted, and then on to the second item, marquee sign.
Mayor and Council, this is a recurring item over the last couple of years. This first popped up on our Point Avenue project. We did include $65,000 for this in the FY24 budget as well. The last item we were waiting on was some brick or stonework for the monument that would, or the base that would run around the monument sign. Brickwork would be about $25 a square foot, stonework about $50 a square foot. So we're looking at some significant cost there as well. So, at the last meeting we discussed this, there was some discussion about the necessity for this sign at this time. I think tonight's probably time to wrap up that discussion. From my perspective, I think the work we're doing to engage with the community at this point has been worth that effort. Our regular posts on the app and social media channels, newsletters, notifications, really all the information we wish to provide, and the effort of making everything transparent. Everything's readily available and fairly easy to find on our new website. And we handle requests every day for additional information as well. So I think despite all those efforts, there's always going to be a certain segment of the community that we're not going to reach. I don't know that a digital sign is necessarily going to make that difference. So we'll gladly proceed with this if that's the wish of the council, but we won't lose any sleep if you opt out of it altogether as well. My recommendation is a motion to reject all proposals.
As I stated at the previous time we discussed this, I think that after we kind of evaluated what the cost would be and got quotes, I don't think it's really going to have an ROI for what we're seeing for communication with the community. I don't know if anybody feels differently. And we just got the new app, the new website. I think we should see what kind of metrics we see with that before we spend more money on communication.
Don't forget Facebook Q&A. That's
Yes.
another way that we can get it out there. Dave, thank you.
So you're saying that should continue?
I
Gladly.
don't think you're gonna get much ROI no matter what sort of communication
out there for everybody, and I think you kinda hit on that with the, certain part of our community is never gonna get, whether it's an app or Facebook or whatever the communication is. I guess I don't have a strong feeling either way, but I just know there will definitely be a part of the community that won't engage in those types of assistance in getting that information out, I guess.
I think one of the biggest things is making sure that we are also, when you talk about kind of who's gonna look at it or not, making sure that we're reaching the crowd that's not on Facebook, that's
Right.
not on our website, not on the app, how are we reaching those citizens? I don't know that this is necessarily the way, maybe the newspaper also is an option for that, and then, old-fashioned phone call, email, et cetera.
And we're still doing water bill stuffers.
Yeah.
So, right, I mean, there's
Yeah.
attempts to those who aren't dialed in
Right.
to social media.
I mean, one thing that I would like about it, if we did do it, would be like getting the ball games and stuff, because I think you'd get maybe better attendance at ball games possibly, because people don't know necessarily when they are,
Yeah.
Things like that, I think would be a positive.
I think that brings up another point though with our park and rec programs and getting back to having one big calendar that's accessible publicly. It's got live updates, either the coaches go in or rec manager or whoever, and, that way we can go online and see, hey, there's a ball game tonight, who is playing, what time, all of that, where that doesn't necessarily exist.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, Sports Engine, I think, especially from a design standpoint, is really useful. But even I'm digging to find calendar events on there. So we are going to be adding events, all the games to our events list on the app. It's gonna take some time to add all that, but that'll all be on the app as well, just like in, schools app has school games too, so.
But there again, I mean, you're not gonna get a certain part of our community, not gonna get an app, probably don't have a smartphone. It's nothing wrong with that, but if you drive by a sign or whatever, you can see that.
Could we add it to the community calendar in the newspaper? That thing's always.
Games?
Yeah. I feel like those are community events. And band, when the band plays, that should be on there also.
Who owns that marquee sign that's a little bit north of the auction house? Or the 4-H grounds?
City Lennox, that says Lennox, welcome to Lennox.
Yeah,
Is that ours?
yeah.
Could you maybe use some of this money to refresh that sign?
It's possible. We've also got a $5,000 grant from Excel Energy that we need to repurpose if we're not using it for this. So I've already talked to Excel a little bit about that, and we could probably do the same there.
I saw a sign down by Centerville that was like photoed onto some hard stuff that looks almost like what we have out there, but it was like 15 years old and it looked like it just rolled off the assembly room floor. So I think it might be even a cost-effective option.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that sign, I like that sign, it just, from the one side, it looks awful.
Yeah, it's seen better days. And, the LADC is working on a new sign approaching Lennox from the west as well, up by the golf course, so that's a potential use as well, so. If the council deems that an appropriate use, let me talk to Excel first, see what they would like to do, see what needs to happen on that north sign, so.
Well, I think if you could get about the same exact sign you have out there, but a light.
Yeah. Yeah, the brick and all that stuff would already be done, just have to upgrade.
It's just the base. Yep. Excuse me.
And then maybe you can look at putting, a couple of the brick things, just like you have with the other one. the west side. So you're looking for a motion to reject all these bids?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, is there any further discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, marquee sign has been put to rest. All right, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You can, either way. Push one gavel.
When are we gonna do the last interview?
Pardon?
When are we gonna do the last interview?
During item B. Yes, item B.
The documents are listed on there.
Or what?
I said there's some documents under item B.
Call the new city council meeting to order. 7:21. Move on to B, appointment of mayor and Ward 3 alderman.
Mayor and council, again, the city will have 2 vacancies upon the turnover of this meeting. With regard to Ward 3 and the mayor, council interviewed 2 candidates for Ward 3 and 1 candidate for mayor on April 8. Noted ongoing discussion for April 22 with the appointment of Ward 3 and mayor commencing tonight. The council made clear at the April 22 meeting they intend to appoint Lauren Vendrell to vacancy for Ward 3, not Ward 3. Ms. Vendrell's resignation, planning commission will be acted on about by the council later in this meeting. She's advised to abstain from that vote. Received an additional application for mayor on April 17 from Rob Peterson and an application from Danny Fergan on April 19. Also received an application from Joshua Stenzel. That's included in your packet. Since the last meeting, Mr. Riley and Mr. Peterson have withdrawn from consideration, leaving Mr. Stenzel and Mr. Fergan. I'd advise if you wish to interview Mr. Stenzel tonight, as you expressed at the April 22 meeting, now is the time for that. So I've recommended motions in there. Once those appointments are completed, Alderman Bowers will administer the oath of office to each and will continue on with the meeting.
So what are we looking for here? Just to go into interview with.
Interviews, yep. That was the process that you had identified, so.
Ready, Josh?
Come up to the podium.
Good evening, Josh Stenzel, 309 North Elm, looking for consideration on mayor. Guess any questions?
So why are you interested in here?
There's been a lot going on in Lennox lately, and it seems like a good opportunity to get involved more directly than any other ways, you know.
What involvement have you had so far in the community?
As far as official involvement, not too much, just keeping up on meetings and kind of paying attention to what everyone's saying about what's going on, and all that kind of thing, more or less just interacting with residents. Going through this Central Basin 4 at the moment, so I'm getting a feel of what that's all about. And, you know, just, I've been here pretty much all my life. My, back in 1889, my great-great-grandparents came here.
Wow.
And I started up, but just like to help out however I can, you know.
I've asked the other applicants this question about conflict and how you handle someone who would approach you with a strong opinion that would differ from the direction of what we decided in council meeting. How do you handle a confrontation like that?
Getting involved and coming down and at least stating your piece so that there's more consideration at the council would be a great start. You can't just be mad because they did something and you didn't talk about it. You gotta you guys go put your 2 cents in.
Right.
And then you'll have a right to be mad if they do something else, but at least you want that part.
So I notice you are quite active in the Q and As that Nate does.
Yeah.
What ideas or what would you bring to the table if you were mayor? Like what do you think it needs to be fixed, or what ideas do you have? You can elaborate kind of your passion.
I just think I'm polarizing figure, kind of draw some more engagement.
Yeah.
They can use that however they like, you know. But as far as Q and A's go, I noticed an uptick in views and all that. And I don't know if one's the other, but I'm happy seeing more views.
Yeah, I mean, we're always open to new ideas, being challenged, being,
More eyes are.
so I mean, we encourage that, but we want you to just come with some ideas and some solutions and not just complaints.
Sure. Got a small group of people who bounce ideas off, and if they ever come up with anything good, be sure to let you know.
So do you have anything queued up that you really want to attack?
At the moment, I'm just concerned about spending, budgetary, and what we're leaving for our kids more than anything. I want them to want to live here too when we get to age. I want them to like right now, we got outrageous property taxes and water bills. It's making it hard to even operate for the average middle income family.
So do you have any ideas to address that?
I wish.
We have to pay for that stuff.
You can't put everything, like with these water bills, I mean, that can't go on forever, right? There has to be a point where we're like, all right, 200 a month's point, right?
Yeah, we pay it too, we agree to that piece, but we also need to balance out with improvements and how
But
they.
being integrated, I think that we also need to shoot a little better brainstorm than just off on the side. Honestly, watching videos is good, but it's kind of choppy. You can't really hear everything, so there are things that people miss. For whatever that's worth, it can come down, but everyone's busy, you know. Maybe they can sneak away for an hour after dinner and watch a meeting, but they can't always come down.
That public statement time is priceless. When a resident comes up and addresses the council, it gives credence to whatever that issue may be. You know, and it's always encouraged, so I'll say that again publicly. The best place to express yourself, to be heard by a council and a mayor, is right here in person. And yes, we're all busy and schedules are hard, but when we're passionate about something, oftentimes we can make it work.
That's the goal.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. If this doesn't, if you aren't appointed mayor, would you be interested in serving in a different capacity?
That could be potentially it.
Because really having a mix of opinions, a mix of backgrounds, a mix of everything makes a council, makes committees that much better. Because there's no way we can say we can walk in your shoes or in
I'm sure
your shoes or your shoes.
You guys know.
Right. So having outside perspective or perspective that differs from others is not a bad thing ever. Because if we don't hear it, it's hard to consider it. And if you don't consider it, you'll never take that action. So,
Makes sense.
yeah, I'm relieved to hear that you'd be interested. And I'm glad you're here right now with this
If you guys
level of
choose
interest.
no, then just let me know if there's anything else I can do.
Awesome. Questions that you've got for this and us?
I mean, my biggest thing is I do work a full-time job and all that, and I was just wondering what the hour requirements would be and how, is it just the meetings, is there more on the side that you'd have to do throughout the business days, this type of thing?
Yeah, there's some, but it's definitely not a full-time job.
Okay.
Our current or just outgoing mayor would balance it with a monthly engineers meeting, I believe, that she would attend.
Sure.
That would occur during business hours, so it does add a little bit of scheduling to go with that.
Sure.
The mayor would be present at ribbon cuttings, various functions, and is always encouraged to attend committee meetings. When we meet with the fire department or the police in a committee capacity, or when there's a library meeting. The mayor's always made it a point to try and attend those. Those are evening meetings.
That helps.
Yeah, that helps a bunch. But then the mayor has a feel for what's going on in all aspects of the committees, therefore, then in the community as well. So I can't quantify what that hour commitment looks like on a weekly basis, because there are weeks where the mayor doesn't have a role to serve that week, other than reading emails, answering text messages, and taking phone calls from residents sharing their thoughts or opinions.
Doesn't sound too bad.
No, it's not, again, if it was bad, we'd probably have to pay someone full-time wages to do it. And you know we don't have that in the budget.
I haven't seen it.
Right.
Do you have any better number of hours, like roughly that?
And the only other thing I would add is, before council meetings, the mayor and I typically meet, like the Wednesday or Thursday prior, sometimes the Friday morning prior, just to go over the agenda, any outstanding items that we needed to, review. You know, certainly working with the city engineer, we can look at what the time is on the engineering meeting. We've changed that before to accommodate mayor's schedules.
Seems reasonable. I don't think it's something I couldn't work around. For that matter, I'd take time off if I had to. Do some PTO and whatever.
I really appreciate you coming up here and being vulnerable and talking through kind of what you want to do for the community. And, you know, I told all the other candidates this too, that if this doesn't work out for the mayor position, we have 4 positions open in the spring for council seats, and then a mayor seat will come up as well. So lots of opportunity when petitions are due in February.
Sure. And that's always in the newspaper?
It is, yes, so we put it on the website, it's posted on the window out here, correct?
It's on the app, yeah.
On the app.
But so it's like end of January to end of February is kind of
End of
the
January.
time where you
yeah.
gotta go out and get the signatures.
The vacancy notice is January.
Yes, yeah, so the
By law.
vacancy comes out in the paper.
So this
It's
would
for
only
2
be a
weeks.
6-month stint.
Pretty, well,
Essentially.
you'll go all the way till May officially, but the petition happens in February. And then if there's multiple people that apply for the same position, then there would be an election. And that happens in April. Yep.
And then that would be a 2-year term, where this is 1.
Well, next year it'll be depends on which one you go for. Because it'll be a 1 year
The
for the
mayor will be a
mayor.
1-year term, and then Ward 3 will be a 1-year term. And then we'll have another Ward 3.
We'll have 5
too.
seats up next year.
It's 2 Ward 3s.
Mhm.
Big things happening. Where have you guys decided, if you got any more questions?
Anything else you've got for us?
I mean, I went to high school here, I made friends here, I got my first job at the Pizza Ranch way back in the day, and I just wanna figure out a way to help them. This current way, lots of desire.
Yeah. And that's really everyone here, that's our common vision as well. We don't quite have that history. I can't speak for everybody else, but I don't have that history here that you do with family and roots. My
It's a really
wife
nice
was
town.
here since 5th grade, but, you know, so she's heavily invested. I've been involved in this area since I moved back from Omaha back in 2002, so it's 20+ years. So we all want what's best. And again, having varying eyeballs and opinions and concepts to get to that same spot is the best way to get there.
And oftentimes a passion for change is a reason to run for office too, and kind of feeds that drive and desire to do this. And so some of us, I guess, came on with the wanting to make some changes or had something already in mind, and you're doing the first step on getting involved, and that's how I learned a lot about the community, was getting involved, first with Park and Rec and doing some fundraising things and then coming to council. Not that it has to be that way, but getting involved is the way to learn, so.
Absolutely. That's how I learned. I jump in not knowing really what I'm doing, and I find out a lot and try to do better from there. Hopefully everything is positive. That's just how everything's going. Is that, good enough for you guys?
I think so.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, a lot to consider from what we've got two applicants that are, both represent some pretty awesome qualifications and would do a fine job in serving that role. Questions or concerns that we've got on the process at this point? We're at appointment stage for that position.
Well, there's definitely nothing smooth about how this process went, is when I can tell you that. But we're beyond that.
You know, I think this is just such a unique situation. We haven't had this happen before where we're, I don't think anyway, I can't speak for historically if there's ever been multiple petitions not taken out and then subsequently no applications for certain positions, mayor and council seats. So I think we're in a little bit of an unprecedented territory and then just as a city in general and as councilmen, so. But I agree, there were definitely some bumps that I wish it would have went smoother. I think we're past all of that, and where we're at now today is we have 2 qualified applicants. I like what you said about, you know, bringing diverse opinions. I think both candidates absolutely, you know, have very different opinions than the rest of us, and I think that they both bring a lot of value to any committee or the mayor position, the council seat. One thing I will say with the council seat, you know, you have that vote, the mayor does have a vote if there's a tie, but sometimes that allows more of a voice too. Being able to cast a vote every single meeting and every time we do need to cast a vote. So that's what I appreciate about this seat, is having that voice for the community.
It's my point of view, I mean, like Brittany said, both of them bring unique points of view. I think Danny's in a better position to step in and hit the ground running and lead us. I do encourage Josh to try to get involved, whether that's running next year for council or mayor, or investigating planning and zoning, or park and rec board, or something to get your feet wet with this process. Because I think your point of view is valuable. You do bring a lot of knowledge of history to the town, but I don't think you're in a position yet to just step right into mayor. It's my point of view. I don't know, where do you guys sit?
Billy, you got anything you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, I'm of the same mind as far as Danny. And my decision has been propped up by, I've had several people that have come up to me and they've mentioned Danny's name as well, and kind of hoping that Danny would get in there. So, yeah, I mean, I would agree with Brittany. There was some kind of a bumpy road, kind of a weird situation we found ourselves in, but we have to go forward, and now's the time.
I will make a motion to appoint Danny Fergan to mayor, and would encourage Josh. I know we have some open seats. I don't know if that's plural, we do have open seats, whether singular or plural in the community. I encourage you to express your interest to the incoming mayor if you are interested in a position on a different board. And then in the spring, please pull out a petition. I think you bring a lot of value and a unique voice and perspective that we need.
I'll second.
Yes, I agree.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll also make a motion to appoint Lauren Van Driel to Ward 3 Alderman.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we'll go to. That's in there, it's not in here. Is there?
We can sign it after. Have to read the whole thing, so.
Lauren, you wanna come up first? Raise your right hand. Can you read?
Hold it.
Oh. Sorry.
So she has to repeat after me? or-
Correct.
Okay, I, Lauren Van Driel, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and the ordinances of the City of Lennox, and that I will perform all duties of the Alderperson Ward 3 for the City of Lennox, Lincoln County, South Dakota, as approved by law.
I, Lauren Van Driel, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and the ordinances of the City of Lennox, and that I will perform all duties of Alderperson, Ward 3 for the City of Lennox, Lincoln County, South Dakota, as provided by law.
I'll sign this afterwards. Danny? I, Danny Bergen, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and the ordinances of the City of Lennox, and that I will perform all duties of the Mayor, City of Lennox, Lincoln County, South Dakota, as provided by law.
I, Danny Ferguson, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and the ordinances of the City of Lennox, and that I will perform all duties of mayor for the City of Lennox, Lincoln County, South Dakota, as approved by law.
Number 7. Go to city council organization. Nominations for president, vice president.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next item of business, election of president and vice president.
I'd like to nominate Sam Bowers as president of the council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Sam Bowers to be the president of the council. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion does carry, Sam Bowers as president.
Make a motion for Chad Swear as vice president.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Chad Swear as vice president of the council. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And motion does carry for Chad Swear as vice president. Next item of business, appointment of the city attorney. And then we have an existing city attorney that we want to, do you have any discussion in regards to this?
I don't know.
I think they've acted in good faith
I think
as
so.
our attorney, and I would, as for my voice, I would recommend that we continue in that capacity
I
with
agree.
Brett and Kevin.
Lever?
Lovren.
Reverend.
Brett Lovren, Cadwell, Lawson.
Do we need a motion for that?
I think you could just name.
Okay, all right. As mayor, I appoint Brad Lovren with Cadwell Law as our city attorney. Brett Lovren with Cadwell Law for our city attorney. Next item of business, the city engineer. We have a specific, from Stockwell engineer, I don't know if there's a specific.
Yeah.
Mitch
Mitch
Mergen. There's no objections, I will appoint Mitch Mergen with Stockwell as our city engineer. Okay. And then there's committee appointments, the next item. I would like to table this till next meeting just to get a little bit more information on the roles and duties and everyone's skill set a little bit more too, so we can appoint these committee appointments for our next meeting.
That's not recommend the motion.
Do we have a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Second.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries for tabling the committee appointments. And then, designation of official newspaper. I will appoint the Lennox Independent as the newspaper. And then on to new business.
I'm going to recommend a motion to approve all appointments.
Motion to approve all appointments?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve all appointments. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion does carry to approve all appointments. Next item of business, then, new business, we have Planning and Zoning Commission resignation.
Mayor and Council Planning Commission member Laura Mandrill was appointed a vacancy for Ward 3 earlier tonight. Under South Dakota Code, she cannot hold both positions. With the council's acceptance of this resignation, it will be effective May 12, 2024. I recommend a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second for the resignation of Laura from the Planning and Zoning Commission. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And motion does carry. West Court Avenue.
Mayor and Council, this is a fairly old issue that comes before us tonight. Residents of what was previously known as West Court Avenue requested a further vacation of that right-of-way. I've included a map of the area in your memo. Half of this right-of-way was vacated, I think, sometime between 2000 and 2010. I haven't located that date quite yet. Since that time, we've had some homes built in the neighborhood. In terms of maintenance, the city is responsible for the mowing, but that's graciously largely been done by Mr. Poppins in the past. In terms of future use, we may need space in the area for drainage or for looping future water utilities. We have no current plans to do so. City engineer has been consulted and would prefer that the right-of-way not be vacated so that it can be available for drainage, water, and buffer area from the railroad. And I would prefer to accomplish that work. I think we can accomplish that with the necessary easements. So tonight's just for some discussion and guidance. The residents are here to speak on their behalf. City engineer is here to answer questions as well, and I just want to come to some sort of understanding in terms of what the council would like to see happen, if anything, with this property.
Would like to open up for discussion?
I'm Glenn Nelson, 217 Juniper. I'm one of the landowners
to that property or to the vacated road or the 33-foot that's available there. We as the landowners next to it, when we purchased that property years ago from the city, and they made it a road at that time, it was never a road before that. So when we purchased property, it was because it was a road, we could have entrance any place available on that street. Well, since then, as they're saying, they wanted to have it for drainage and everything else, you're getting new streets in town. I have no, why would you use that?
We wouldn't use it as a street, no.
You'd never use that 33 feet for anything.
I can speak to that after you kind of talk on it.
But we would like, as landowners, we'd like to have that put back to the street, even if it's a one-way street, so that our property can be used instead of being landlocked. That's what we'd like to have done. And we're only talking the 2 blocks there, from Elm to Juniper. Just follow the tracks. But right now, it keeps us landlocked. We can't get on anything. So I guess it's up to the council to decide what you really want to do, but we would like to have it as a street. I don't know, Nate's probably filled you guys all in, not necessarily you new people, but Nate, I'm sure you filled everybody else in on this already.
They have the memo and the information was shared.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so it's not new stuff that I'm trying to tell you, but
Sorry.
go ahead. No.
Could you tell me more about where you would be landlocked, or is there an access point specifically you're looking at?
I'm on
Like,
Juniper.
can you?
Block off.
I have the map, I've got it
Yeah,
up here.
just
If you
block
could-
off.
Okay, which property? Over here.
Yeah, this is here. This property
This here.
yes. So
Does this not
when we
have
purchased,
access here?
when we purchased it, it was never a road, the city made it a street. So they could get bidders out, so everybody would bid on the property.
Doesn't Juniper go all the way down there?
It does.
Yeah.
There are
That's kind of
no,
what
there are
I'm
no
asking.
properties along any of these streets that don't have access. They've all
I
got
didn't
access.
know if you had maybe a driveway that's not
But
showing.
So you're
see,
saying
but
like-
see, we were sold, when we purchased the property, it was sold as central business, which we were. Well, central business, you can build lot line to lot line. So owning that property and not having a street eliminates you from putting in more items for tax purposes and everything else. So, because you can do just like you do on Main Street, 33-foot frontages, 33 by whatever, and you can build right next to
There's
them.
not a street there now, right?
So
Just a road.
it makes that valuable with the street in there.
Dedicated to a street, there's not a street, right?
Right here.
You guys chose not to make it a street, but it's dedicated to the street in Canton, on Google Maps, it's dedicated to the
Okay.
street.
Yeah, it's considered court cabinet, that's what it is. The city made it, and at that time, they would have been the developer. And they never developed it. But as they sold it, it was sold to the people that purchased it, as that's gonna be a street and you'd have access, that's how we were told. Then as we asked for a street, which we did over 10 years ago, they said to us, no, we really don't wanna do that, it'd be too expensive. Would we be interested if we vacated? Well, that's fine, but at the time, we just went ahead and done it. But now, like I said, you can make it a one-way street or whatever, make it accessible so we can put something in there.
So you want us to
we can
put
tax
in
it.
a street?
Pardon me?
You're asking us to put in a street?
Yeah.
The city dedicated the street, so
Yeah,
it's either you got
the
two
city,
options.
the city is the one that made the street. There was never a street before. The city, when they went to sell a property, made it a street. Now, that was your old council, your old mayor. But that's what it is, I mean.
Just because the map says it's zoned as a street doesn't mean we're gonna go put a street in just willy-nilly.
It's dedicated to the street at Lincoln County, so
Make it
I guess you have two options.
Yeah.
Vacate it, give it, and do
gutter with it, or make it a street, put the curb and gutter to get the drainage out, because the water is there and not draining, so it's.
You're not maintaining it now.
It's just asking to make a decision, one or the other, and get out.
We're still trying to understand it, so I'm not making any decision.
Well-
Can we hear from Mitch of what his point of view? I just want to hear the engineering side of it.
Yeah,
of-
Okay. I think we went through this one.
Thank you, Glenn, for your
Yeah, thank you.
information on it.
And
Yeah, we're not trying to argue, we're just trying to understand. This one.
Well, we're not, sure.
Yeah.
We're just wanting to get something done, we're adds value.
I think,
I can tell, Glenn, would you give me your address again? I'm just looking at the picture and want to look at your lot.
He's at the end of Juniper, right on.
217.
I'll go to 213 North Cedar, that's right, I
217.
look at that one too.
Thank you.
You're what, 213?
213 North Cedar, yes, sir.
Between Elm and Juniper.
So Mitch,
Cedar,
can you-
Cedar, Juniper, and then at the railroad tracks on the north side.
Mitch, can you clarify, how far south does Juniper go? 'Cause it's, so,
there's curb and gutter all the way south to the property line.
so like the 217 address, and then there's this open lot here. It looks like that's a sidewalk. Is this,
There's no sidewalk down there, that's a curb and gutter that I believe Glenn
Okay.
put in some time ago. But Juniper Street is a right of way, it's a dedicated right of way. There is a street there, there's curb and gutter, I think it's
So-
gravel in that portion,
so this lot has access
Right.
to Juniper?
yes. Now, it's not a paved access,
It's gravel there, right?
but there is access to a public right of way. And that's really what we're talking about, is what's left, this 33 feet that we're discussing is a right of way. And I was the engineer at this time, Susan, I know the history of this and can speak to it. There's no obligation by the council to improve a right of way to the street. There's no obligation. There has to be funds available, there has to be a desire to improve it. So that is completely in your, just because on the plat, and they're correct, on the plat it is labeled as Court Avenue.
But as it was sold, Mitch, it was sold that it would be a street, so that's the reason we purchased it.
And that may be a discussion they had that I wasn't involved with. But I can tell you, on a plat, you dedicate right away, and you name those right of ways as streets or avenues, whatever. Doesn't mean you have to build a street in there. You're not obligated to have a paved curb and gutter or any type of access through there. In fact, at the time, there was a, kind of a gravel, dirt access through there, and that was abandoned. Okay, you have the ability to abandon roads too.
No, I'd like to correct that, that was a gravel road, but it was never a street, it was just a gravel road that one of the.
Yeah,
city,
right, you're
city,
probably right.
the city employee, no, I know, like the city employee made, and then the city dedicated the road right before the
Yeah,
full project.
and part of the problem back then, it was half of it was on the railroad right away too, which is another story. But, you don't have an obligation to make any improvements there. The reason I would recommend that you keep it is back then, we kept 33 feet because we knew we had drainage issues in there. We knew we had some utilities that we wanted to install there in the future. There was a desire to make a connection for pedestrians through there. I don't know, Nate, if you included that exhibit.
There is an exhibit.
That was really the.
But it doesn't go to Main Street, so it's gonna go 2 blocks north.
No, I think it showed it attached into the main street.
That doesn't go all the way to Main Street, it ends at,
Right, you'd have to acquire the property to get the rest of the.
which you don't have.
Not today, no, but you always plan, right, that's what we do, we plan some of these things out. So that was the desire at that time, was to leave that aside so that they can make a connection, because they did have, they wanted to have that connection from Elm Street to Main Street along there. And then we also have just introduced a comp plan recently. It has a policy in there to try to buffer the railroad, and so it's the desire of the community and the group that was here to try to acquire these properties as they come available. So they're speaking to the connection to Main Street. There is, just east of Glenn's property, there's another property where they own all the way up to the railroad right away. The comp plan would encourage you to try to acquire that if that property ever comes up for sale, so you can make that connection all the way through. And I would think that once that property is acquired and that connection is able to occur, that'd be the time to do that. So I would just simply recommend that you hold on to it.
So just so I can explore kind of all avenues of this, ballpark, what would you say it would cost to put in a street, curb, gutter, everything on Court Avenue to make that a street?
Well, first of all, there's not enough room to make
Legal street.
a legal street to meet your standard. Cause.
that's what, I just wanna make sure, cause that's
Yeah.
what kind of they're asking for.
'Cause to
So
be
I
able
just
to-
wanna explore that as an option, what would that look like? And so if it doesn't fit for the right of way of the
It-
railroad tracks.
Right, so 66 feet is your minimum for your streets, and you can get by with in 60 in some areas. But your minimum street width on its own is 35. So you physically can't meet your minimum for a street in that area.
So can I just ask a question, so this gives the city the right not to maintain this property? I have to have a business there with a property that doesn't get maintained, because the city has never maintained it, I always have.
Right, I would say.
It used to be a gravel lot, I still get people coming down in the winter time,
And it's,
thinking it's a
Put
road.
street in there, but you just flat out told them, if they need 35 or more feet to make a street, they've only got 33, but now you're telling them to keep the property to make a street, they don't legally have the distance to make a street. We're talking on two sides here,
I'm not
what's
at
the
all.
definition?
I think Mark, then after Mitch is done too, if you wanna come up and share, that'd be fine as well, so.
I'm not recommending that you put a street in there, I wouldn't make that recommendation. I do recommend you keep it for a future sidewalk connection. I think that'd be a good use of the property. I think we will need to extend storm sewer in there just to clean that area up and try to get the drainage out of there.
Where do you have to extend sewer? I guess I'm confused on that. I mean, our new streets are already in there, wouldn't that be in our new comprehensive plan already? I mean, all the streets are getting all redone, so why isn't this in the drainage plan?
We would love to put this one in there, but we just didn't have the funds available.
But you're also saying that you're gonna put a street in because you're gonna buy, so you can go to Main Street.
Nobody's saying we're gonna put
Not
a
a
street.
street, I think, for pedestrians is what.
We're
he's
saying doesn't make sense to put a street there, but it makes sense to have the property available for other purposes. One of which is a sidewalk, another of which is to have access to put a storm sewer or a sanitary sewer in the future, if it makes sense.
Okay, so can you answer me why the city never has maintained it then? I've brought it up several times.
That's a valid question.
For a lot of years, I mean, a lot of years, so I just finally took it on myself and we've all just kind of maintained it ourselves.
We should be maintaining it if we own it.
So,
Yeah,
so Mitch, with doing all the streets that you're doing in town now,
Yep.
and you're gonna be able to set drainage, your drainage plan is figured already, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I'm
so to put a storm drain on that 33 feet, where are you gonna drain it to?
we actually, we just installed the storm sewer up to the railroad. So there's a new storm, you go by it, there's a storm sewer system that was just installed in the past couple of weeks.
So why isn't that getting
North
drained?
side. And we stubbed out a storm sewer so that we could pick that up again and take it further east along that right away.
But you don't have any plans to do it?
No. We don't have written plans.
Yeah, I don't get, I mean, you had thought, you keep saying you're planning ahead for the future, you got a plan for a sidewalk, but no plan for drainage.
I guess when you say plan, we don't have construction plans to do that. We do have a plan of intent to extend it in the future, but there's no construction project.
Well, see, this is one problem that the city of Lennox has always had. You have one set of people that do one thing, and then it's, the next set is changed, and so you're just always kind of in a quandary, wondering what the hell's ever gonna happen. Like I said, when we purchased the property, it was all about, this is gonna be a street, we're central business, and you could make, you'd have tax dollars coming in already. Now, you've got nothing, and you're gonna save it for potential that will never be there. I mean, I don't see how you're gonna ever do it. I don't really ever imagine, since you're already doing your streets, you'd have no need to go any farther. You don't need to make loops for water. You've got to purchase more property. I don't see where you can even benefit off of that.
And this isn't just me, guys, it's the comprehensive plan that was put together, and these are planning documents that have been out there, based off past councils.
So what would you guys gain by us dedicating it back to you?
Basically, I'm already maintaining it. I'd be willing to
Well,
pay taxes on it and, or make it a road. I guess to me, it's pretty simple, even if it's just a gravel road, we got plenty of them in town. Make it a gravel road.
If it is a road and you have central business, like I said, you can do just like on Main Street. You can put 33-foot lots on it, and then you can put 3 buildings in there.
That only applies to Glenn and I. The other 2 property owners are residential, so that wouldn't affect them as much.
And they were central business until they were purchased for when it was purchased, it was a type of situation where it could benefit us. That's why we purchased it.
And that's why it's
Now
made
it's set down to the point where you're not gonna gain anything.
and you're not gaining it either, so I guess to me, it's either make it a road, give it to me, give it to the adjoining landowners and let us pay taxes on it, because we're already maintaining it, or the city's gonna maintain, I mean, it was a rat's nest for a lot of years. We all cleaned it up a bunch.
So why would we not maintain it?
It's been a challenge for, new staff to keep it on their schedule. It's just not something we've done regularly.
And I'll be honest, there was always a little amnesty against me, Glenn and I think honestly, I always just felt like the city was just doing a big,
Well, the other thing is.
honestly, it literally was.
When the city has ordinances, which you guys just got done saying that you're gonna take care of the city ordinances, that's part of it, the state, the Constitution, and the city Lennox ordinances. You didn't maintain it, so once grass is 6 or 8 inches tall, it's supposed to be taken care of, or you get fined. Well, you as a city can't get fined, but you sure as hell didn't take care of it either. So, and I guess that's what Flanagan getting at. So we took it upon ourselves, instead of having critters running around and everything else, it was maintained. We maintained it. The city didn't, they didn't give a rat's butt about it.
They did.
How is the drainage? in
Out of
that?
sight, out of mind.
It's not at all, Sam, right now, there's, when we get that rain, like we had that 3 inches of stretch, I've still got water sitting there between my property and the road.
But that's actually on the railroad property, on the city property, there really isn't water.
It's just rushing off from the
I
construction.
I could mow through it all.
But if you're gonna make it as a drainage part, then take care of your 33 feet, and don't let it get to the damn railroad.
Weeds and grass.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to give it to us, we'll keep it grass,
Problem
weeds,
is
lock it
the
everywhere,
railroad
sod, whatever.
railroad. I just assume the water get collected before it gets into the railroads.
Yeah, it should already be bypassed.
Yeah.
So you're already not taking care of it. And saying you, it's being city people,
I mean, if I
it's a
can-
loose description of that. But
Well, I know like before, I think
if you're
Chris
gonna do
moved
it, do
in, there was a lot of water that sat back there probably before they hauled in here.
On the railroad side,
Yeah.
but not so much on the city side.
It still puddles back there behind, that's.
I mean, I mowed through it always. I mean, there might be a little water, but usually the water that's sitting is on the railroad side.
Not in the yards at all?
No, nothing on our yards.
Or it's over, what's it? Between him and the next yard north.
Northeast corner has a bunch of water sitting there.
But get
On
some-
your property.
On mine.
Right, but that's because there's no damn drainage.
Kohler?
Get the drainage.
No,
One way or the other, fix it.
The one you were putting in.
agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not Kohler, it's,
So I guess I'm just more or less do something. I mean, what are our options? Can we make it a gravel road, one-way street? Can we vacate it? Can we do something? The part you keep saying, just leave it the way it is, I'm not happy with that.
I'm not saying that.
I mean, I got a business there, I gotta look at it every day, I like my stuff. We cleaned that whole north end up tremendously.
Mitch,
That's what we've done.
you've been in this town for how many years?
12 years.
Yeah. So if you're gonna make that so the property drains, it doesn't, because of what it is a mosquito nest and everything else.
Yep.
So if you would make it so it did drain properly, what material would you bring in to make that drain?
When I would deal with the storm sewer, I'd take it underground and get into a piping system.
Well, once you have that in, then of course that's all it ever can be of the street. You can't ever build on it anyway.
Right, yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, would
So-
that be an option, make it just a gravel road? Then you could put storm drain in someday?
Again, I'm not recommending a gravel road, because I'm not.
So you're just recommending leave it the way it is, and I just have to keep
No,
that property?
I do recommend putting a storm sewer.
But you're not knowing when it's gonna be.
put something.
Or,
Well, we're getting complained that the water rates are too high, so we're trying to juggle all these there's a lot of stuff we wanna do.
Well, we're far enough away that these two are the ones that are skunked, because they're the ones that get all the water backing up to them. So eliminate that
I
problem.
mean, we could certainly look at that for the council and just see what it would take to extend the storm sewer through there, help clean up the drainage, so we don't have that nuisance anymore, and we'd be happy to put something together for you folks.
well, I'm sure you would, because then you could charge city Lennox.
And as long as we're on that, if you could just find out who's in charge of mowing the roads.
That right away should be maintained by.
Well,
the city.
because they're right across my from where I have my building, there's never been anything done. You have no drainage, and I know it's a future project, but, I pay taxes in town, and we have down the street a half block, we have a mailbox in the middle of the street. We've had that for years, we can't ever get rid of that. And hell, we've been spraying the weeds in the damn street.
Right. So every year we go through CIP planning, right? So we look at projects that the public bring to us and.
But this was never been looked at, up until now.
Well, I'm just saying we're gonna look at it now.
Right, but I mean, it never, you keep saying you had plans, but it's never been.
The capital improvement plan is a formal document that's adopted by the city council that identifies plans that you fully intend to take on in the next 2 years, what their financing sources are, and how they're going to be paid for. That's different from when we have conceptual plans for things that we'd like to be done sometime in the future, whether that's a playground or a street or a utility loop, whatever it might be. So when we talk about plans, there are formalized plans and there are conceptual plans.
Well, not for the city to waste a lot of money, because that's stupid, but you gotta do something on that end because it's ridiculous.
And maybe the reason it hasn't happened yet is we just got the storm sewer there 2 weeks ago.
Right,
So
and
without the storm
I
sewer-
realize that, I'm just saying, if it would have been in any plans at all, you would have incorporated in this project, is what I was getting at. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because that would have made sense to incorporate it in that.
If the funds were available, yeah.
But if you keep so worried about drainage, that's what I don't get, I guess.
I think what we should do is just put it on the CIP as a project to discuss, and we can put some estimates together so that we know what that would cost, and you guys can make a decision on what projects you want to fund for the coming years.
I think in the short term, we need to start maintaining the property.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't think it's right to.
And for these two, I would strongly recommend keeping that water out of their yards.
So that's the Cruzy property and the Lucas property, correct? Those are the two properties we're talking about?
Chris, you're on all right?
Correct,
Yeah.
right before the railroad tracks start.
Yep, I got you.
216 and 213.
If you have any questions, Nate knows how to get a hold of them.
I guess I was always understanding it's dedicated road. And I ain't saying we gotta put curb and gutter, but you guys aren't doing anything with it, even if it was a gravel road like it originally was.
But we're trying to get rid of,
Glenn's point.
we're trying to get rid of gravel.
And I get that,
We're
trust me,
looking at
I
adding
was the
gravel.
one that petitioned my street to get paved, so I know all about gravel roads, sir, I do. But I'm just looking at, it's a rat's nest. And we've all maintained it ourselves, and you guys keep saying drainage future, well, it don't look like there's any future that's ever gonna get done, that's why I've just finally had enough of it. I wanna know what we're gonna do, one way or the other. Or what
We
the options
appreciate you cleaning it up and maintaining it and coming here and kind of giving us your side of it as well.
Mitch, they can follow your direction, because you're the one who's gonna give them the know-how, what they can do, so. But, yeah, with something done, even on Juniper Street, I mean, that's a mud puddle all the time.
Yep.
Can't get there, if you clean your truck, you just will forget driving in the damn street.
Yeah. And we do have a desire to tackle gravel streets, and we've been making progress on them over the years, and that's on the list, that block, and we're whittling them down every year.
All right.
Mitch, quick question. What is our normalcy here with properties that are adjacent to the railroad? Are most of the property lines drawn up to the railroad easement?
So the railroad owns their own property, their own right of way all the way through there. And through town, it's mostly 50 feet each side of the track. Now in this area, there's a spur that they really that hasn't been used in years. They
But they want to keep.
So they own a little bit more to the south side in that area where that spur is. But in general, they own 100 feet total, so 50 feet on each side of the railroad. And a lot of the properties do butt up to that. They own up to that railroad. Back when we replatted this, 10 years ago or whenever it was, the city owned a big piece of land there. And it wasn't getting utilized, and so they subdivided it, gave up some of that property, had an auction sold, and that's how some of these houses got built, because they gained some of that property and we were able to make better use of it up there.
All of 2014 is when that sale was.
Yeah, so
And
That's
it's
kinda what
vacated
happened.
in August of 2015. The
Yeah.
north half was vacated in August of 2015.
So, but that was kind of abnormal. Most, where you look at the railroad, most through town, people own right up to that 50-foot mark.
So what Nate was saying in the notes is that if we were to motion in a future meeting to vacate, further vacate this, we could acquire that land by right of way in the future to use it for, is that what you're
If we
saying?
were to vacate it, the property would go to the adjoining properties. The right of way would go to the adjoining properties. We believe the 33 feet would go to the north again. We're trying to figure out some stuff with state code, but I believe that's possible.
But then as far as the easement process, if we were to want to put these paths in the future, I mean, could those property owners refuse that work? Or could we acquire an easement with no issues?
My recommendation is that if you're going to vacate it, you get an easement in place prior to vacation, so that we've got that possibility, whether it's going to be a future utility or drainage, whatever it might be.
And that's been part of our discussion, is in my experience, you're much better off owning the property if you're gonna use it and maintain it and have facilities in there that way. When it's in an easement, it tends to, people tend to treat it like their property, because it is their property. And so you might get, fences in there, you might get
Trees.
things that make it just that much more difficult to go into your improvements and your projects someday in the future.
But also, when you own property, you're supposed to take care of it.
That's
You're
right.
supposed to maintain it.
There's no doubt about that. We should be actually maintaining that.
With the
And maybe what would help with that is if we staked the line so that everybody could see it.
You guys did that once before, and so, and the stakes are still there.
You think so? Are they?
I put up a fence, I put up a $10,000 fence, because I didn't want to look at the green stakes in it, so yeah, I.
Oh, yeah, but out to Elm, I don't know that there's any, is there stakes all the way?
Yeah, each end of the stakes, no traffic signs, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why, because that's what you guys did, you put up ugly green signs, posts all the way along my property, and I'm like, I'm gonna put up a fence, so I spent $10,000 on my chain link fence, so I didn't have to look at
It's
those
not
green posts.
There are signs up, it's not safe.
Yes.
Well, the no more vehicle sign that got knocked down by the snowplow multiple times this winter.
And we always put it back, yeah, obviously.
When people were driving through this.
So one more question then.
If they're there.
It's a road, 33 feet of road, so if we choose to drive it, we can still drive it, right? I mean, you don't have it,
The city has control over that, they police it, and so if it's, a
I ain't
closed-
saying we're gonna do that, but I'm just saying people do, I mean, even though it's grass, but people still.
Just like if you
run
close any road in city limits, you have the authority to close it and people can't trespass it along there.
Correct.
Well, then, so when I'm maintaining it, I'm technically trespassing, so you guys, I suppose that'll be next, I'll be getting trespassing while I'm mowing it. I think we went through this in about 15, because that's what the big issue was.
at one time, Mitch, you were talking about making turn, I forget what.
Yeah, Hammerman's.
Yeah, and Hammerman's.
Do you know what
On the two-end streets.
Because now I back into my driveway.
Well, that's what the conversation was then, is we wanted to hold on to more than what we held on to, so we could make that, so that.
It helped when they added that, when we put the curb and gutter in, they put a little gravel in on each side, and that made it different, because now people actually have room to turn around. And that did help, I will say that.
I mean, that would be part of the plan is if we, like for Juniper, for instance, we would try to build that at the end with some turnaround, some hammer.
But there again, that would be a huge expense, so that, if they did vacate it, at least then the city would get taxpayers from it.
Currently, the water drains to the west over to Elm, is that correct?
Pretty much.
Ideally.
And ideally, with what's going on with CD4 right now and the drainage over there, is that accounted for?
Well, you'd think for the city to save money, you're taking out enough gravel and dirt and everything else, that you can sure as hell take care of that without spending any money other than the construction part of
Right.
it.
Right, you guys live it, and we're just getting educated to it, so trying to get all the information we can.
Well, we're getting educated with you guys too. And it's working both ways.
All right, the purpose of this item was for discussions and some guidance. Do we have any other things that any of the residents want to share, or?
Well, if you would make some sort of decision and let us know what the hell's going on, it'd be a real good deal, I
I
guess.
think for right now, we want to take over the maintenance and further vet our options before we make any decisions.
What's with this mailbox, where's that at?
Juniper.
Why is there a mailbox in a row?
It's not,
It's been brought up several times, I brought it up several times.
That's right on Juniper, right, the
It's
next street
fat.
up, I can't see. Yeah, it north, yeah.
Who's
Juniper Center going north?
it's not,
In fact, they plow snow around it and everything else. That's why I say, who's in charge of mowing the streets, right? 'Cause that's right out in the streets, even myself, it's so muddy and such a mess, I gotta drive in the grass on one side in order to even get out of there for crying out loud, so. I'm sure you'll look into it,
Yeah.
and,
If we had a guy show up tomorrow on a lawnmower, is he gonna run into any of your stuff?
well,
Right now, I've been parking stuff on it, and
I
I've
figured,
made
I mean-
arrangement with Nate, because I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a couple things stacked on the fence, but I can go move them right now if you'd like.
I don't-
well,
Yeah,
it's,
or-
So then right now,
I'm just curious, I mean.
I would also,
it's
like
fresh
to get
and
reimbursed for
mowed.
the 10 years I've been maintaining the property.
It's fresh and mowed, if you drive by there, it's pretty clean.
But yeah, I'll gladly move the things I got stacked against my fence, gladly, I'll move it right now.
I'm not asking to move it right now, because
No,
I
I'm
doubt
not.
there's a dude showing up with a lawnmower tomorrow.
I just mowed it, so I don't think you're gonna.
But I just don't want it to be a surprise when the city comes to maintain it.
Yep,
Well,
it'll be a big surprise.
Right, but if you're expecting it, maybe you wouldn't be upset, because I would be like, hey, why, this is where I put all my stuff, you know?
I've told Nate, I said, as of right now, I'm just gonna keep maintaining it, because I know you guys aren't gonna, and that's what I've always done.
10 years will teach you that.
Basically. I learned a lot in 10 years, also not to trust a lot that comes from city council too. I'm hoping we're gonna change that, but, you know.
Like I say, it's from one old council, you get information and you purchase accordingly and do everything. And then all of a sudden, new council comes in and it's, wow, what is this type of thing? So it's such a mess. That's why I say, if you council people follow your actual ordinance of this city and look them up before you make your decisions, you can't make any enemies, because that's exactly what's in your ordinance. It's when you vary from it, is when you get in trouble, and that's why people don't like it.
Yeah, you've been in
My
our,
advice to you guys is, read your books.
you've been in our seats before, I mean,
What's that?
I know there's other streets besides this in this town that are labeled streets that aren't used as streets. I'm not trying to argue the fact that it was maybe told to you that it was gonna be put through as a street, but there are several streets that are on the map.
No, the city decided to make it a street to sell the property they had. That's what they
Right.
purchased.
Right.
It was adjoining our property, okay? So instead of getting it halfway reasonable, when they put in the street and giving people access, then you had the extra bidders. You had 10, 12, 15 bidders there.
Right.
Where ordinarily you wouldn't have anybody if that wouldn't have been a street.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Right.
So we were
I don't dis-
taking advantage of at that point because we believed something that couldn't happen, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Like you
again,
said, that was previous council, whole
Yeah, it
whole
was,
different
but
council, whole different city
It
administration.
was, and I'm acknowledging that, but what I'm saying is, do yourselves a
Right.
favor and get what's good on that end of town should be good on that end.
Right.
Do that, you'll all be in good shape. Right, Nate?
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks.
All right, any other discussion?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And then a formal motion in regards to this item.
Just discussion.
All right. Thanks, Mitch. Next item of business, Central Basin 4, project change order number 2.
In your packets, you have change order number 2 for the Central Basin project. And I'll kind of probably just spend a little bit more time on it just to familiarize everybody. But the Central Basin project is the project that's ongoing here. We're in the second year of phase 4, so we did half the project last year and we're doing the second half this year. The project is utility, sewer, water, storm sewer, street project, and it's scheduled to wrap up towards the end of July, might go into August a little bit. But that's kind of the plan right now. With this project, there's a lot of earthwork that comes off the job, a lot of dirt that we specified, and then we've done this in a lot of past projects to keep that dirt and utilize it on other sites so that we can improve other sites within the community. And so last year we utilized it on the Eining property south of town. We had the contractor haul all the dirt from that site, or from the job out to that site, and that's where the lumber yard is now. And so all that dirt you see out there that's filled up, that the lumber yard's built on, was dirt hauled from this job out there. So we were able to make another use of it. The dirt has gone further than we thought, so we need another site, and that's the purpose of this change order, is to bring on a second site. And so we're looking at the site that the Development Corporation owns. It's Creekside Edition over on the west side of town, southwest corner. If you go by there now, some of the dirt work is already happening. But again, we're just improving that property to make it more sellable. It's really low lying. It's got some water standing on it, so we're really trying to elevate that so it's just more appealing. And it benefits the development group, as well as it benefits the project because they don't have to haul it so far. With that, that's what this first item is, when it refers to RFP number 4, is about the $70,000 of an ad to bring that in. We are underrunning a number of things on this job, so we're able to deduct a lot of items out. We didn't use as much casing pipe on this project as we thought we were going to, so the items that you see in red are items that are simply just drawing down that we're not going to utilize on the project. We have individual pricing from the contractor on all these items, and so whatever we use or whatever we don't use, we save, and if we use a little bit more, we pay them at that unit price to use a little bit more. So this is kind of a balancing act to spend more money to take the dirt to the south and save money on our casing pipes and some of these other miscellaneous items. Okay?
All right. Are there any concerns with the Creekside site and flood distinctions or anything?
No, there's no floodplains over there.
We did wetland delineation, I believe.
We did a wetland delineation. There's a pothole wetlands that we aren't required to mitigate. They're not regulatory. So no issues there. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good deal for that area. It kind of
didn't want to have an oops.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of looks, it looks like it does now, I guess. But once they get it done in July, it'll look a lot nicer.
Where's the first location where you're taking the dirt?
The Eining property where the new lumber yard is going up.
So how does it cost us $70,000 more to take it closer?
So that contract, it costs you at least that to take it down there, because that was built into the initial contract. So that site was actually built into their contract, and we thought we would handle a lot of the dirt from the job. And estimating dirt is always a guess, you don't know how much it's gonna swell or shrink. And we actually didn't fill it all the way to our elevations, because the lumber yard asked us to stop at a certain elevation. They thought it was high enough for them, so that kind of left us with.
So that's the trucking bill, basically?
Yep, it's the pay, there's actually the RFPs attached.
Yeah, you're stripping topsoil, you're doing the grading, tracking, all that other stuff.
You bring in a seed contractor to seed it. There's some pipe that goes in there, some storm sewer that we have to put in just because there's a little pond that we're designing into it to hold some of the water back. A lot of those were unit prices that were already established. When we used the unit prices of the original contract, it was much higher than this. It was north of $100,000. And so I renegotiated unit prices with them to bring the price down.
What about the wear and tear on First? Driving down there, third load back?
I think we'll have to keep an eye on that.
I mean, it's fine now, but I'm guessing by the time everything gets done, it's probably gonna loosen some things up.
And we have had that a little bit, and if we get an area that blows out, we'll just have to get over there and patch it back with the project. I mean, the important thing is to know some of those things, because this is all funded, through the state, so we can get some of that patching done on the project.
I know there's been some complaints about speeding through that area too. Down First, and I think it's gotten better, but.
Do we have that traffic counter out right now? That phone was
The traffic counter, we put out traffic counter last Tuesday morning, I believe, and one of the contractors actually cleaned up mud on the road and ran it over because it was shadows from.
Just the tube, not the counter itself.
So he wrecked the tube to go across the road, so we got those on order, that I just checked on it
And that was done because of some requests about speeding on West First.
Yep.
We're gonna do the same thing on South, South End, so. But we can always send more patrols out there too if we're getting some.
Yeah, I don't think they're the only ones speeding.
It's not isolated to,
No.
the trucks?
No, you could definitely use some patrols.
Okay.
Just to summarize, so when you add this all up, you know, we have a net deduct of $12 on the project is what we're recommending.
It's good.
Does this need a motion?
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Motion to, accept change order number 2.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the change order number 2. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? And motion carries. Next item, Central Basin 4 project pay application number 10.
Okay, so now this is pay application number 10. This gives them paid up to date. So if you're looking at the cover, we can kind of walk through a little bit so to familiarize yourselves with the pay request. If you look at number 1, our original contract price was $7.9 million. We had a change order add of $45,000. That was some of the patching that we decided to do last year on 2nd Street, wasn't it? Remember right?
Yes.
That brought the current contract price to $8 million. Total work complete and stored to date is $5.96 million. And the next line item is retainage. We retain on the contractor. We can retain up to 10%, but we can only retain half the project value. So once they reach half of that project value, you start to see that retainage come down. So it starts at 10 and then eventually comes down to nothing. So right now at this stage, we're at 6.7% they're retaining. That equates to $400,000. That's there if there's anything that we didn't catch or that just fails on them or something like that down the road. We have that in security. So the amount eligible to date is listed there. You can see the less previous payments. So the payment, this application is the $289,258.49. And then if you're curious about the breakdown of what we're paying them for on this application, that's all the pages that follow. Largely what's occurred in this last month, we paid them monthly on these projects, is the boring underneath the railroad tracks and the casing pipes that were installed to get across the railroad tracks. And those types of improvements. Any questions?
Motion to approve pay app number 10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pay out application number 10. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? And motion carries. Thanks, Mitch. Next item of business is concession proposal.
Mayor and Council, we have a new proposal from Recreation Manager Trey Mannix. Trey is at state tennis as well tonight, so couldn't be here to present this, but I won't read through the whole proposal, assuming you've all had a chance to view this up to a certain degree, but this is something that's come to us probably 2 or 3 times over the past year or 2. This is a new proposal that kind of mirrors what's being done in T, and I believe a couple other communities as well. I think Freeman does this, maybe a couple others too. So what they do is they essentially contract out their operation of their concession stands to either a local family or company or whatever it might be. I believe we do have some history in this, going way back. I remember Dawn used to talk about some of this, or we would, used to have a company, a local company that would just run it. In terms of benefit, we would benefit from the lack of oversight and the amount of effort and work that has to go into actually getting everything done in the concession stand, whether it's ordering, accounting for cash that is sometimes counted well, usually not. Whether it's triple counts, things like that, and all the ordering, stocking, inventory, all the other stuff. I know we've talked before about whether these concession stands really yield as much net revenue as we would hope. I think in the past they probably did because we were running them with volunteers from the park board. That's who was doing all the ordering, the stocking, everything else, getting volunteers. And now that's done by paid staff, and so that changes things a little bit.
It's not ran, but I mean, it's not ran on a game-by-game basis by city staff.
No, it's getting everything ready, doing all the accounting of the cash and everything else. In terms of, how is it run during games, that's still run by volunteers. Some games better than others in terms of volunteer attendance, I suppose, but.
I'd rather take a different direction, but maybe.
So just to understand, like, we would hand it over, so then they would own everything, they would keep all the money, they would buy all the supplies, and it's just not even city.
Hands off.
Correct.
Would we pay them anything to do this? It would just be a contract?
Their earnings would be whatever they net from the sale of concessions.
It would probably turn into better concessions under that.
Well, I think it could be better concessions now with what we have, if we require each family that has a kid participating or multiple kids participating.
Yeah, he just sends an email out and you just gotta hope everyone goes and signs up, which doesn't
Right.
happen.
I like the caveat that Sam just mentioned, this has been in the air for a
Right.
while.
And then if they don't do so, then they have to pay an X amount.
Yep.
I mean, we've been talking about this for years. I think
Yep.
there's other cities, I mean, we talked about a couple cities that go this route, there's a lot of cities I think that go this route as well.
Do we have people that want it? Like, is there, like,
I don't know that
is there an
we've-
identified?
I don't think so, not that I know of at least.
So I
We'd
know-
probably have to make it a RFP or bid it out, I would assume.
I know that LBSA was one.
They're no longer interested.
Okay.
We've got 7 weeks left in the season at this point,
Right.
and it's hitting us on May 13th.
Right.
I think the timing of this is terrible for this year.
Yeah, for this year, I think so,
Right.
absolutely.
And it's good to hear this side and consider it as an option, but I don't really see how we take any action to change that right now. I think we need to really discuss our summer program, our summer rec program in its entirety, and make determinations about what direction we want to go with all of this.
Right.
Not piecemeal these things as the seasons are being played.
So I noticed that this was discussed in April at the park board meeting, but I didn't see in the minutes much for the discussion more that it was a unanimous approval. Do you know kind of what the consensus was or what some of the discussion or pros, cons that they brought up?
I'd have to go back and watch that video.
That's,
I can follow up on that.
that's okay. I can call those members too. I just didn't know if there was an overwhelming support for it or if they had concerns. I think there's a couple things both ways that just coming from the Park and Rec Board myself, yes, it used to make money and that's how we have the new concession stand at the middle fields. But there was a lot of volunteer work that went into that, and I don't think that that's something we would expect any board to do now. That's not the intent of it, and that's why we started the position that we have now with the park manager, or recreation manager. One of my questions is that his or her responsibility in the future for that position, right now is Trey, but if he ever isn't in that role, that position specifically, what would be the percentage of work that you foresee him not needing to do this anymore? Would his hours change, the pay for that position, or the amount we pay per year?
The amount per year would probably change simply because the hours would be so reduced. It's an hourly position, not salaried. During the program year, at least 30% of his time, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would
Not
say
more.
that's maybe
So-
a little more.
And the concern I have long-term is if we continue the current route and we continue to expand programs, at one point, something's gotta win. Either concessions have to win or programs have to win. You can't do both forever. You can't keep expanding programs and keep doing it the way we're doing it. And I think there's been, if we talked about years past, even in my first couple of years here, I think there was a lot more volunteer hours put into actually running the concession stand in terms of who, parents showing up, so on and so forth. And that seems to have dropped off a bit.
The problem was you had the same people doing everything and they got burnt out. You had the people
Yeah.
that run the park and rec board running all that stuff as well, you know. and
If we, is it a yearly contract, so we don't wanna give to someone, they do great, and then they just abandon it, and then we have no concession?
You could design it however you need, if you wanna do a multi-year contract to operate it. You know, I guess I'd probably see this similar to how some municipal bars, would contract out, you know, the actual operation of the municipal bar and municipal liquor store. The city may own it and take some of the proceeds, but the bulk of that is going to whoever's got that program, so.
So I know in other communities, I don't know specifically for tea, but I know in Sioux Falls, they bid it out actually for concession businesses to pay the city.
The opportunity to.
For the opportunity, and then they make money. And so the only thing, I'm not saying we're gonna have all this interest or people willing to pay, and I know that the volume is much higher at Harmon Park and other city parks in Sioux Falls. But if we scaled it down to where our volume compared to theirs, and, because we're losing some revenue here, a revenue stream, we're losing a little bit of control. I don't necessarily care for that, where right now we can say, oh, hey, we're not offering pulled pork at a tournament, and that, you know, makes the tournament committees wanna come here, and people wanna return. I mean, food is a big piece of baseball, softball, summer sports that people forget about, I think, until you don't have it or you don't have good food. So I think losing the control, I'm a little bit concerned about that. But if we have somebody willing to bid and pay, I'm just curious kind of what interest we have. And I'd also like to see some of the workload taken off of the staff here, because I know it, when we first implemented the POS and system, that was a lot of work for our staff too, for rec specifically. So I know concessions on top of that is a lot.
What was the system implemented?
So it wasn't necessarily for concessions. I was talking more from the park and rec standpoint of sports engine and transactions. It was a lot for Denise and the front end staff. And so then they were also doing some of the ordering for concessions on top of the POS system.
Had some discussions with, it's hard to believe, but I'm at the point now where I'm starting to forget some of the stuff that I learned early on in my tenure here. And we were trying to remember exactly how, you know, some of the string of events that led to us doing things the way we do them, and it really was an internal controls discussion back in early 2019. You know, we were building the concession stand, going through that whole process and allocating additional dollars to that, and realized that there was this additional checkbook out there. That was a city account that we didn't have any access to, we didn't have any accounting on, so on and so forth. So they're technically city funds that never came through City Hall at all. And that's kind of how we got to this point of, you know, we need to make sure these are properly accounted for. In the event Dixon, Illinois comes to Lennox, South Dakota. So, you know, that's kind of what got us started down the path of making sure we're accounting for everything on the recreation side this way. And I think at the same time, if I remember, you were on park board yet, and that's when we were starting Sports Engine, the first iteration of Sports Engine, which was a big step. But yes, requires an awful lot of work on the backside to make sure that we're reseeding it properly, coding it properly, so on and so forth. So it's just gotten to be a more complex system than it was in the past.
I think we've had cabins do it before, but they gave us back like, I don't know if it was 10% or something like that.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Cabins, I can't remember the.
Local?
It's a local person, yeah. I think they used to do stuff out at the, I think maybe at the, when it was an auction place out at Holman's. They ran the stuff out there. Some other areas, but. I think that was always kind of a standard back then. If we subbed any part of anything out, we would get at least 10% back. And people never had a problem with that. But like Brittany said, I'd hate to see it go, and it's probably more so the fact that we've been through it, being on the park board and put in all the work and saw, you know, the fruits of that. And to throw all that away and not get anything back out of it, it's kind of frustrating to see.
We don't know for sure, but we would estimate we're probably netting 10% at this point.
Yeah.
If that. Again, the stat we kept last year, we did have a net gain in both, but that does not take into account staff time. It's just pure sales and expense, and so.
I think there's a lot of, like Bill said, I think we need to look at the whole program in its entirety. I think there's a lot of things that could be.
Would we entertain someone to make a proposal to us that they wanna take it over and we can evaluate that? Is that fair?
I think we need to look at what the bid laws say first and make sure that we're not operating outside of what those say. At the minimum, probably an RFP, but.
Yeah, I guess look into that and get back to us.
Right.
I don't think we need to take any action tonight.
I'll have more discussion. We've got park board on Wednesday night this week, so I can have more discussion there. Give them some of the feedback from the city council from tonight. And, you know, again, I think you're right, that this isn't just a concessions discussion. There's a lot more here that I think needs to be discussed. So.
Right, quantifying all responsibilities of what it takes to run our entire year-round program.
I think it's something we can consider, but I agree with Bill, you know, this is way too late for this season. I don't know that that was necessarily the intent, but I think we can talk about it more and have a decision before early spring, I would say at the latest, November, December.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing on the concession side. I get my emails asking you to volunteer to sign up for various times with concession slots, but I don't see anything come through on my app telling me that there's times available. We've got games coming up, concessions, workers, volunteers needed.
Yep.
If you can get word out, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's something Carly and Trey and I talked about late last week, so we should start seeing some of that happen.
Can you clarify, are you talking about the city app,
Our
not the
app,
Sports Engine app?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The city app, my City of Lennox app.
Yeah, I
Right.
didn't know it.
Sports Engine, we get the email,
Yeah.
sign up Genius request.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry if I didn't hit that.
No, I just wanted, when you say app, my mind goes to Sports Engine, but I just wanted to make sure.
On Sports Engine, do you get a notification or does it just come through the email?
We don't get a notification
Okay.
on Sports.
There's no push notification that shows.
You can set it up like that, but
Okay.
currently it does not exist, no.
All right, thank you.
All right, next item, annual report.
Thank you. So every year we have to do an annual report for the state, and it is complete. I just wanted to go over some highlights of this annual report compared to last year's. So 23 to 22, our property tax increased by $131,635. Our sales tax increased by $137,961. Building permits decreased by $99,533. Our interest income saw a large increase of $96,038.51 from 22. This is mainly because First Interstate Bank did the sweep between our money market to our checking. So therefore, we only keep $50,000 in our checking, and everything else goes back to our money market, which helps us. Contributions and donations from private sources increased by $255,050, in which the Lennox School District contributed to our pool parking lot, and that's where a lot of that came from. Long-term debt for enterprise funds increased in 23, and that was due to our Central Basin 4 project. Overall expenses decreased by 20% from 22 to 23. Our fund balances increased in the general fund and second penny fund. Other governmental funds showed a decrease due to a large transfer from ambulance and the pool funds. So ambulance, if you remember correctly, we had to do that big transfer. That's what caused that. Long-term debt for general fund decreased by $362,377, and there was no long-term debt issued in 23. Water fund did see revenue increase, and this is largely from our grants received on the Central Basin 4 project. Water revenue is steady now, however, it would be nice to see a reserve for future expansion. Sewer fund did see a revenue increase again due to this Central Basin 4 project and the ARPA fund, grant funds. Sewer is stable. The ambulance fund has a big write-off of previous accounts receivable and is moving forward in a better direction. Swimming pool fund did better in 23 than 22, with 6,602 more in revenue, but also saw an increase in expense of $26,681. That's kind of my overview of the annual report for this year. So, any questions?
Do I need to make a motion to accept?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I recommend a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. And motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Next item is agreement with Coke Hazard Architects.
Mayor and council, Coke Hazard is the firm that you selected for the museum project and the structural assessment of the band shell. The agreement in your packet is a standard project agreement from AIA. I did review it and didn't find anything objectionable in the language. The cost of the agreement at a base level is $18,000. Based on some of the discussions with the Historical Society last week, I think we could go over that based on changing a little bit of the scope of this project. So I think it's possible that increases, so I propose formally capping that budget at $25,000, and if that's in danger of being exceeded, I think bring it back here for your review and approval. The agreement is still under review by the city attorney, so I recommend approval pending city attorney approval.
Can you elaborate on the discussions with the Historical Society and their wishes?
Yeah, we looked at some of the other items, with respect to the skylight. I don't think that's gonna end up being in this project, because it sounds like there's more structural work that would have to happen and not just, replacing any sheathing and cedar shake shingles. The carriage house, it sounds like they would like to extend the project to the carriage house as well. I don't think there's a ton of window and door work, but certainly the roof would be a larger project, so. They have not suggested an increase in that price, so at this point it's still at 18. But I'm comfortable with you knowing that it's possible that that could go up based on the fee schedule that they attached.
Motion to approve agreement with Coke Hazard Architects pending city attorney approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. And motion carries. Now to the next items here, personnel. Summer recreation assistant job description.
Mayor and council, the Lennox Park Board has approved the creation of a summer rec program that was done this past winter. Last week and a half ago, they also recommended the creation of a new flag football program. So that's to take into account here as well. In order to provide that program, we recommend the creation of a new position, the recreation assistant, responsible for assisting the rec manager with the administration of program activities, making sure that there are extra eyes on the kids that we have in the program, so on and so forth. There'll be times where the rec manager needs to attend to other duties, so this position would be assisting guest speakers or other outside groups chosen to help with the program. Though we do feel that that'll be an exception and not the rule. Pretty important that the program manager be there, especially this first year, to make sure that it's pulled off as seamlessly as possible. That I did add a note on Thursday or Friday of last week about the new flag football program. So this position would also hold primary responsibility for that program rather than the recreation manager. I do remain concerned about how quickly we're putting this program together, but Park Board did ask to give the go-ahead to start registrations for the program.
Who would those position, these two assistants, who would they report to?
Recreation manager.
When I think about like removing concessions and reduced workload, initially I wasn't fully in support of this, but I think when we look at it, kind of like when COVID, the COVID year, and we didn't have as much for events, we had a rec, like an hourly paid employee that came and did
Michael Larson.
things in the park, right? Is that kind of what the idea is here?
I'd look at this more of, I think it's similar, but it's not just to fill gaps in our programming. This is a new program that they want to start. Park Board has worked quite a bit, especially on the summer rec program. So maybe a better description would be like you know, you got camp counselors and assistant counselors, those kinds of things. I think that would probably be more a fair description of what the position is compared to, I think we call that other one activities director, if I remember right.
I would like to make a motion to go into executive session
Second.
for personnel.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Executive session, let's set the time. 8:55. Sounds good.
Good night, everyone.
Nice.
Good night, Mitch.